Whoa. Okay, ain't nobody fucking with my click. Click, 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 click. Ain't nobody fresher than my muff. Click, 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 click.
In most zombie pop culture or survival pop culture, we get the idea of a found family, which juxtaposes the central idea of a nuclear family or a traditional family, a dad, a mom, maybe 2 kids, a picket fence kind of thing. But within this nuclear family and the found family, we have the roles of the members, which can be further broke down into what we'll be focusing on: gender roles. In George Romero's first work, Night of the Living Dead, we have 3 quintessential female roles in the film. We have Barbara, Helen, and Judy. Each hold a certain connotation relative to the 60s and the ideals for a woman and what they represent during that time. First, we are introduced to Barbara. She is skittish, she is scared, and she is spotless. Throughout the film, it seems there's never a hair out of place as she wails on and on of her despair. No stains on her clothing despite her running from the undead, although she does lose a pair of heels. And she has no smudged makeup from her countless tears. She stays tidy and neat and reflects the expectations of a woman's appearance mandated by man during her time period leading up to the women's liberation movement, where the styles, the expectations, and the mind of the woman was changing. Besides getting firewood and letting Ben inside the farmhouse, she does not seem to do much and is shown as not being capable to handle the stress of the situation, unlike her male counterpart for a majority of the film. Next, we have Helen. She is definitely more outspoken than Barbara from her interactions seen with her husband, Mr. Cooper, and the other survivors in the house, but she is still limited to the archetype of women in film. She is a mother to her sick daughter and is seen as a natural-born nurturer. Much like Barbara, she is seen with very well-kept hair and makeup leading to her untimely death. Although she contributes to the maternal role of women in this idea of hope, she is not afraid to speak her mind and is seen as more emotionally stable and sensible than her husband, Mr. Cooper. Judy is very much a minor role in Romero's Night of the Living Dead, but she definitely contains a style that is much more liberated than the other 2 in the house, reflective of the many women's liberation movements in the fight for rights. She has hair that is loose and flowing as opposed to an updo or a bardo bump and sports a denim jacket and pants. She has a rebellious air that comes with the youth of the time. And although she doesn't contribute any original ideas, she helps when she is directed to and is more hands-on than the other women. Even with her small liberation, she is ultimately reverted back to the stereotype of the maternal figure and the nurturer as she is instructed to watch over Helen's sick daughter later in the film. If the zombies haven't gotten to your brain responsible for memories, then you can recall the last blog of Francine in Dawn of the Dead. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on her, but I wanted to reiterate some factors of her role as a woman. She is a symbol of hope through her biological factors as a survivor due to her untimely pregnancy. She is seen as emotional, but she undergoes a lot of character development that leads her to analyze and act in situations of escape from the shopping plaza, i.e., holding a gun, and being able to fly the helicopter. Compared to Romero's earlier work, she is more dynamic and rounded, having a job, a moral compass, and more than a chunk full of lines. This could be because in the 80s, although still sexist, we see a rise in female business tycoons and their ability to lead. Honorable mentions include Samantha and Regina in Night of the Comet. 2 sisters, both containing the iconicity of 80s Valley Girls, are the main survivors of the film after Earth is impacted by comet dust, leading to the rise of zombies. They are able to maintain a very feminine demeanor while also kicking some major ass. The threat of zombies and the doctors who wish to capture the 2 in order to conduct experiments can represent the woman's threat in these films of objectification of their body and lumping them as no more than a reproductive need to continue society, which brings us to our next group of survivors. Selena and Hannah are both women in different stages of their life during the same pandemic in Boyle's 28 Days Later. In terms of tropes, they do carry some semblance of their former figures seen in Romero's work, but it does not consume their identity and their stories. In fact, the idea of maternity and the mother-to-return civilization is a part of an antagonistic arc employed by the film's human villains, Major West, and the men who serve under him, and are crucial to the understanding of the visions that expose both the gendered politics and racial logics of social reproduction in this genre of film, as seen in the readings by Trimble. And for the semblance of hope, this comes with restoring a civilization. It comes in the form of Hannah, a young, bright-eyed girl living with her father. She herself can be seen as a maternal figure by filling the role of her deceased mother as she lives with her father before Selena and Jim arrive, but ultimately symbolizes the youth and the prosperity that comes with the young. To further break down the role of gender in this family, the only fully grown woman is Selena, and she, in a nuclear sense, could be the mother, but I don't see her as that. Yes, she can be seen protecting the group, specifically Hannah when giving her those pills to ease the pain from the soldiers, but she also makes the tough decisions like killing her former survivor who had been with her before Jim stumbled along. She is parallel with Ben in Night of the Living Dead as a protector, not a mother. Her shift in dynamics for the female genre is very much apparent from Romero's early work and later work, but also the time period. Not only is she a woman, but she is a black woman. Specifically, the horror genre, black women don't always have the lead, and they certainly never make it to the end credits. And the stereotype of a black woman in film often revolves around being strictly a badass, which she is, but she shows a soft side as the film progresses, and we get to see her interactions and her love for Jim and her need to ensure Hannah's survival. In 28 Days Later, Selena breaks racial and gender stereotypes and remains as one of the sole survivors rescued alongside Jim and Hannah. Although throughout the movie franchises of zombies we see the emergence of women liberations, I truly feel that Selena's character is the breakthrough from the maternal rhetoric in women in these survival-esque films. All this is to say that the gender stereotypes in the nuclear family are changing from the stereotypical forms in which they were presented in earlier film. But before I leave you to go on and survive, I'd like to give you some food for thought before you ride. The roles of masculinity and femininity are very much apparent when cross-comparing them to their times and their counterparts, but it also brings into question the ideas of non-conforming genders on the spectrum. People who identify as genderqueer and non-binary, where would they fall in the ideas of rhetoric in these films? Could they be seen as another survivor? Or would they be seen and accumulated into the zombies as an apparent threat to American society, as they literally do not conform to the ideas of the stereotypical male or female? Just a little idea. I look forward to your answer next time we see each other. But like always, stay strong and survive.